Hi there, my name is Moon, and I am a Western astrologer and Twin Flame channel. And this is a video with some astrological updates about the most important transits as we get into 2025 to pay attention to. We're in a season of unprecedented change, transformation, which can feel like upheaval, confrontation, strife, and confusion. There's a reason for this. We're all moving into a significant season of up level, a significant opportunity for growth, new timelines, and new dimensions. The choices that we make at this tail end of 2024 will have long lasting consequences. This week, in my Star Club membership group, I detailed what to look out for the members as these changes come, the dates and significant time periods to look out for, what these things will mean for us collectively and individually, and how to work with the energies before we move into 2025. I decided to take an excerpt from that Star Club membership program and share it with you so that you can also prepare. And we had some very rich and meaningful discussion around it. If you would like to be on the wait list for the next enrollment for Star Club, the way to do that is head over to kmoonastro.com. You'll see here the square that says Star Club Astro Community Waitlist Open. Once you click, you'll be taken to the waitlist page, which will explain what Star Club is and some of our next enrollment period and what to expect. You just put your email in this box and you'll be added to the list for First to Know. The First to Know group receives special pricing if you're on my private list when I open enrollment. Once I open enrollment to the full YouTube channel, that pricing goes away and there's public pricing available. My 4-week program, Star School 101, 4-week program, Star School 201, and 4-week program, Star School 301 are all available during Star Club for your 12-week membership. You'll also be able to get a study buddy to work through the classes together, chart feedback from seasoned members of the community and from myself. If you'd like to look at a chart for yourself, for someone you love, or a celebrity, you'll be able to trade and exchange readings with members and get access to 20% off everything while you're a member. Updated schedule will be posted in September. So if you'd like to know what that schedule is, I will certainly make that available in the month of September. But for now, let's have a listen to all of the upcoming changes in 2025, how you can prepare, and what it is, the dates that you need to remember. Thanks so much.
Consider as we're moving through this end of the year period, is how do you want to take the revelations that you're getting at this full moon, Aquarius, full moon, lots of revelation in it. Mercury retrograde, touching off on that Uranus and that Chiron. Chiron says, get into leadership. Uranus is saying, get out of your rut. How do I want to move this into where I want to be next? What choices, what actions do I need to be taking to facilitate that? Okay. So I wanted to make sure that I touched on the Mercury retrograde and kind of where we're headed, because this is an extraordinary period of time. I've shared this in an email, but I kind of want to bring to your attention some of the things that I put in the email so you can understand why this period of time may feel so consequential in your lives. And it feels consequential because it is consequential. This is an unusual period that we're all living through where we've got all of the major planets, the life changers, kind of changing signs within about a 6-month period, right? That's quite unusual. We're backing into a brand new eclipse cycle. Like we're closing out on the Aries Libra axis, and then we're going to jump into Pisces Virgo, the 12th and the 6th sign again, and kind of start over with North Node in Pisces and work our way around the wheel. So there's a lot of closure and new beginning unfolding, and it bears kind of paying attention, like how life is changing while the world is changing, while we are changing. Like the rules of the game and then our own identities are changing while the collective is changing simultaneously. Like everything is shifting and in motion. So, let me just pull up that email so that I can give you guys the specific dates, because more than anyone else, if no one else caught it, I wanted you guys to have it. Here we go. All right. So, here are some dates you guys probably want to write down for yourselves. So you can be paying attention for impact. Um, our friend Pluto here, as you know, is in retrograde motion and is headed back to the sign it just spent 14 years in for a final dip before a 20-year stay in Aquarius. So September 11th through November 23rd. Pluto, which is power, is going to back up into Capricorn from September 11th through November 23rd. It'll go direct before November 23rd, but it'll still be in Capricorn. Okay. This period of time, it will be about confronting any of our fears related to Capricorn related things, structures, banks, institutions, government, dealing with our relationship to these things in an empowering way is our final step before power moves into the sign that deals with the collective, and that's Aquarius. Okay. Pluto settles in Aquarius in November. I said November 23rd. Okay. And then in March of 2025, so we're not even at the end of the first quarter, this Neptune here will jump into Aries. Neptune was in Pisces also for 14 years. So since 2008. And that's not uncommon for kind of Pluto and Neptune to kind of track with one another. Some of you even have the Pluto-Neptune sextile in your natal charts, right? Not uncommon. You can see that sometimes in certain like generations of people that were born within like a 10-year span of one another. That sextile. But Neptune in Aries, after being in its home sign of Pisces for so long and bringing a real kind of visionary, spiritual, challenging relationship between what's real and what's reality. I mean, during this period of time, we had the creation of the term fake news. We had the create and predating fake news was alternative facts during this same period of time, right? And so the line between imagination and illusion is very thin in Pisces. But now that Neptune will step into Aries, we're going to start to see a new creation, new understanding, new awareness of identity as it relates to vision. And we're already starting to see that with the rise of influencer culture on social media and influencers saying, hey, like coming out to say, don't believe everything you see on, Instagram or Facebook, the rise of AI and the usage of AI to mimic an individual's likeness is all part of this conversation. But for us as individuals, Neptune in Aries, we're already under the influence of it. But the invitation is to imagine, who do we want to be in this next chapter, in this next season, to bring greater spirituality into presence in real time. You're probably hearing people that you never thought would be open to tarot or human design or astrology start to bring these things up. They're starting to get normalized in everyday conversation. One of my clients this past week is starting to work on branding herself as the light working lawyer. And she's getting a lot of traction on LinkedIn in this conversation. And so there's this blend of the spiritual and the individual, and the spiritual and ambition. That's Aries. Okay. We're going to start to see that unfold in some new ways. But on the shadow side, Neptune in Aries is also going to start to facilitate a lot of like, wait, which you is the real you? I'm so confused. And we're already starting to see some of that where people are like, that thing that you saw on the internet wasn't me. That wasn't my voice. It was faked. It was artificial intelligence. It was a deep fake. We're starting to see that conversation come online. And people really start to get exposed for where their authenticity is not really authentic, where it's imagined or illusioned, right? Okay, so that's March of 2025, Neptune jumping into Aries. Then in May, so not even really a full 60 days later, in May of 2025, Saturn here is also going to jump into Aries. It's going to be conjunct Neptune at the same time. Now, a Saturn Neptune conjunction, let me just see how often they happen, because I think it's kind of specific. Let's double check that. Approximately every 36 to 37 years. The last time was 1989 through 1990. Some of you weren't even born then. But when we see a Saturn Neptune conjunction, we get this blending of Saturn, which wants everything to be third dimensional, and Neptune, which operates in every dimension but the third. We get this blending of grounded spirituality start to show up. We get a bit of the practical and pragmatic alongside of the vision and the visionary. Like, okay, that's a nice idea, but how do we make it real? And especially as they meet up in those early degrees of Aries, we're going to see a lot of people wanting to see like receipts, facts, how to make things real. That's cute idea, cute vision. You know, I like where your mind is headed, but I need to see where's the track record. And so some of the stuff that we have been dealing with collectively around, some of our political leaders, and even people in the entertainment industry that, folks sometimes admire, where there is a huge discrepancy between word and deed. Saturn, Neptune conjunct in those early degrees of Aries is going to really start to call people out. The beginning of 2023 sort of started like this. I think Cat Williams may have been ahead of his time. He's a comedian that did an interview with an ex-NFL player on his podcast I think his name is Shannon Sharp. Don't quote me on the last name. But his conversation, this was like back in January of this year, was all about how there are certain other comedians in the game and in the limelight at this time, and he was calling out, well, here's who they are behind the scenes, and here's who they show themselves to be. Saturn and Neptune coming together is going to see a lot more of that begin to show itself as we get into the start of the year. Okay. or not the start of the year, sorry. The start of the two of them in Aries in May of 2025. Okay. Then in June, not even 30 days later, we will see Jupiter move into Cancer. So Jupiter is probably the least impactful of this group. Jupiter wants to expand everything that he touches. He wants to grow and give opportunity. Jupiter inside of Cancer is certainly going to open up emotionality for a lot of people. If you've already got a lot of water in your chart, a lot of water placements, Jupiter in Cancer will be a year where things can be slightly emotional, as you might have an inundation of water. For those of you who tend to operate a bit more from the head, Jupiter in Cancer year will really help the heart expand. Happens once every 12 years. But we'll also see with Jupiter in Cancer some level on the collective expansion of things that have to do with protections for teams and families, especially with Pluto in Aquarius, and Aquarius dealing with the big major heading groups, subheading families and teams. That's Cancer. Jupiter in that location is going to expand some of the power and the rights that these folks have. We're going to see some shakeups around those arenas professionally and privately, and from the legal standpoint, I would say, judicially, the law. We will also have the opportunity with Jupiter in Cancer, and that Jupiter in Cancer is going to square the Neptune Saturn conjunction down here at the early degrees of Aries. I think this is going to make for some very interesting transformation and shifts. Anytime we get Saturn square Jupiter, from a transit perspective, we have a lot of grounded and pragmatic expansion, growth, and opportunity. Anytime we get Jupiter and Neptune in square, we end up getting a lot of illusion, borderline deception. So it'll be interesting to see, sociopolitically, socioculturally, where things go. I think we're going to see the entire spectrum. But the need to really build out for yourself as we close this year. What is my vision? What am I working toward? What matters to me? Who do I want to be? And really anchor your roots around that is going to set you up for leadership. As people get very susceptible to these planetary energies in real time, you'll be less susceptible if you're working in alignment with these changes leading up to it. It'll feel less dramatic. So while everyone else is running around with a chicken, like a chicken with their head cut off, you'll have a lot more of some of the voice of reason in terms of where do I want to grow, knowing that these things are coming. And then lastly, certainly not leastly, Uranus is going to move into Gemini. And so naturally, Gemini is the governor of communication in Uranus technology. So I think we're going to see a lot of changes with relationship to social media with this movement. Certainly changes, I think, in journalism. We're already starting to see, again, last 3 degrees of Taurus, last 5 degrees of Taurus. We're already under the influence of this, where many journalists have sounded the alarm on private interests funding public journalism, and how problematic that is for the public who needs to know what actual facts are. Gemini governs duality. Gemini governs exploration. Again, it runs wide, whereas its opposite sign, Sagittarius, runs deep. With Uranus in Gemini, I think we're going to start to see a splitting in terms of news, journalism, communication, and social media. that may feel a little extreme at first in the ways in which we can engage with them. And so, like, under the influence of this already, there's several well-known journalists. I think Katie Couric is one of them. She may have even started, these are American journalists, by the way, who have started uh, independent media, kind of by the people for the people, to report on information that isn't dictated by uh, private family interests like the Murdochs, who own, I think, like, he's like 80% of news media. I don't quote me on that number. That number is probably very wrong, but it's a disproportionate amount of news media organizations in the United States. Um, so again, this thing about alternative facts and fake news, I think we're about to see Uranus create a lot of disruption around the existence of this reality and pushback, as Uranus will trine this Pluto, and Pluto is power in the sign of collectives. I think we're going to start to see more collectives come together to deliver quality information, to deliver for people who really want journalism back or news media back, maybe not government owned or state owned, but certainly, owned by the people for the people. I think we're going to see more investment in getting information that is less confusing as news media takes a quantum leap into being in the hands of the people. Okay. Certainly, in the world of the Murdochs themselves, Pluto is opposite the sign of Cancer, which deals with families. And Rupert Murdoch is currently in litigation with his son. It's not funny. I should not be laughing, with his son Landon, about control, or not his son Landon, but the other three children, about control over his media empire. He previously had willed control of the media empire to all four of his children through a trust, only to want to, as we are closing out this year, revisit that decision and leave all control to his son Landon, because his preference is that the news media empire stays under conservative leadership, which he believes only Landon can do that. I think they own Sky News in Australia. They own, again, I'm going to have to come back to that and tell you what are the total properties owned by the Murdochs. But we're seeing power struggle. Again, that's Pluto. Old guard, that's Capricorn. New guard, that's collectives, that's Aquarius, right? So, I mean, terrible stage of life to be in litigation with your own children. But my prediction around this is that with Uranus here in the sign of the twins, again being multi, not singular, and Pluto here jumping into and landing in the sign of groups and collectives, that's Aquarius, I do think the children are going to win that particular legal battle. As Pluto and Uranus land fully in their new sign. So again, Uranus moves into Gemini after 7 years in Taurus, 2024, 2017, in July of next year. So between November of this year, so that's November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, it was 8 months, kind of like dramatic change. And that's just the majors moving signs and bringing in a new vibration, new energy, new thought consciousness, new reactions, new third dimensional reality, new identities for us as individuals in our own charts. I can't overstate how transformative this period of time is scheduled to be and is already being. So if you're feeling like you've got, kind of information fatigue at this point, because it's so much is changing and it's all changing so fast, you're not alone. That would be quite normal. These are unprecedented planetary movements unfolding simultaneously. Whatever you need to do to take care of your own mental health in this, please do. And more than anything, I would say keep your eyes on your own test, like your eyes on your own life. There are changes that each one of you mentioned just with Mercury retrograde alone unfolding while these planets are on the move in such a major way. Again, we're already under the influence of a lot of this because your own lives are so demanding when it comes to the kinds of choices that we individually need to make, where you need to put down responsibility and accountability for other people, do so. Because just as these planets are instigating your own self accountability, it is also doing that for others. And where you yourself are starting to recognize, I got to make this change and that change and move in this way and the following way, the more you lean into that and take responsibility for your own life, the more freedom you provide and inspiration to those connected to you whose lives are demanding that they do the same. Now, alongside of all of this, I've been talking about this for the totality of this year since the Virgo full moon. Here's fullest in Ceres, retrograde square, the transiting nodal axis. The two of them have been moving by degrees into position to retrograde square this transiting nodal axis. They kind of remain locked together in close enough proximity to square the nodal axis through December. And if you I don't know how many of you got through Star School 301, but anytime there's a class in there specifically where I reference like the life journey of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard or their marital journey. And we got to see that retrograde squares to the transiting nodal axis are seasons of extraordinary choice and consequence. It's a time for making decisions. And I've talked you guys through this as much as I can on the lunar updates, that the decisions you make now will have very long lasting impact. And that's not to say that you need to put pressure on yourself. It's to say that you have to be honest with yourself because this is a matter of life force and life structure at this point. And if wherever you're confused, the answer is always with the North Node, either natally, your natal chart, or by transit. And that's a step into Aries energy. Aries energy is about what's our authentic ambition, our authentic passion. What are we feel driven toward? And by contrast, you can pay attention to where do I have no life force energy, no interest? Where am I fulfilling a duty or an obligation to another person? That's Libra. Where can I put that down so that that person is free to move on to their next highest experience in this incarnation? And I can do the same. The pivot point, the fulcrum point, fullest talks about poison, and Ceres talks about cutting it off. So where are there poisons in the structure, Capricorn, of your present reality? And how can I close that structure out? Just step into the
Thanks
new.
so much for
So I'm
having
going
a
to stop.
listen to the important transits to note for 2025 and how to prepare. If there's any confusion about what you should be doing now, right now we're in the second to last Mercury retrograde of 2024. There will be a final Mercury retrograde in December of this year. And so if there has been any confusion, any misunderstandings, any clarity that you could use when it comes to where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do, you can always have a look at the blueprint for your life through your natal chart with me by booking a reading with me over at kmoonastro.com. The link to do that is below this video. And if you're curious about being a part of ongoing conversations like this, where you can get feedback for your life from your chart as part of a community where you get to learn and share astrology with others, then head on over to the website and get on the wait list for Star Club, which is a community where you can learn, practice, and share astrology with me. I look forward to working with you very soon. Take great care and bye for now.